Hello vlog. I am currently on my way to Knit City, Montreal. Today's the Saturday. I'm going just to the marketplace. I'm actually hopping on a flight to Europe tonight, so I wouldn't be able to go tomorrow even if I wanted to. Um, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm hoping not to spend too much money. I'm coming in with kind of a concrete plan of the sorts of things I'm looking for, but I won't limit myself, I guess, if I'm inspired and I see something I like. I just have to stick within a budget because I'm not in a position to be bringing too much new yarn into my stash right now. This is extremely out of my comfort zone, so I very likely will not be actively vlogging while I'm there. I hope to at least get some like B-roll footage and stuff to include in here. Again, we'll see how this all pans out. I'm going with a friend. I don't know if she would want to be on camera, so I will just keep it to shots of the yarn and shots of the convention center. But yeah, I'm excited. This would be my first like yarn knitting convention ever. So I don't really know what to expect. I'm sure there's going to be tons of beautiful yarn that I'm going to have to leave behind, but I'm really excited. So let me take you with me. Also, it's definitely about to rain all over me in my new Maggie vest. So I'm just hoping I don't get caught up in the worst of it. I'm walking to the metro right now and it's not too far from my house, so I should be okay, but we will see. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Allison. If we haven't met before, I am a knitter from Montreal, and today I am going to share with you a vlog and a haul from my experience at Knit City, Montreal, which I just got home from. So if it looks like I got caught in the rain, it's because I did. I'm so sorry about the hair situation. I'm getting on a plane in like 8 hours to France for 3 weeks. So basically everything I own is packed up, including my hair tools. So this is kind of what we're working with right now. I got really caught in the rain on the way home from the festival, but the yarn's okay. So that's what matters. And my Maggie vest sneak peek is okay. Anyone who watches the podcast will have seen this when it was a whip. I haven't actually spoken about this as a finished object yet. I'm a little all over the place with this upcoming trip, so it probably won't happen until I get home. So in the meantime, here's a little sneak peek. This is a knit out of the Cozy Berry DK from Woolberry Fiber Co. in this beautiful deep green called Weekends at the Cider Mill. I think it's just gorgeous. I love this pattern. I knit it in a large. I probably should have knit it in a medium, but it is what it is. I'm still very happy with it. And yeah, before I jump into the meat of this video, I do just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who watched and commented on my last video. Definitely felt very vulnerable opening up about some more personal stuff that I've been going through lately, but the amount of support that I've received has just been incredibly overwhelming. I couldn't have even imagined the kind of response that I would get. And hearing from other people who have also experienced pregnancy loss, it was really touching to go through and read all of those comments, even though I didn't really have it in me to respond to everybody. But just thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It really did mean a lot to me. So admittedly, as you can tell, I did not take that much footage while I was out today. I am still very shy when it comes to vlogging or filming and talking to myself in person, and just didn't necessarily want to draw any more attention to myself, even though I'm sure nobody cares. It's a me thing. I'm a very anxious person, so it is what it is. But hopefully I kind of got enough footage to show you the gist of the festival. It took place at the Sheraton in downtown Montreal on René Lévesque. I had never been to a yarn convention like this before, so I really didn't know what to expect. I have to imagine that the knit cities are a little smaller than some of the really big popular yarn festivals like Flock, or I know Rhinebeck is absolutely massive. Um, so it is definitely a little bit smaller than I had maybe thought in my head, but there were tons of beautiful vendors there, so there were definitely no lack of options. It's just that when it came to actually navigating the convention and kind of walking through and making sure that I'm going in and seeing all of the booths, it was pretty tight. I met a friend there and we arrived around like 9:15, I would say. We waited in a fairly short line. It looked long, but it was quick, so no issues getting in. And once we were in, there were definitely fewer people at the start than there were when we left, of course. I know that there are typically going to be a handful of like really die-hard people who will arrive first thing and make sure that they get the colorways and the yarns that they want because they have a specific target. I went in kind of with a vague list of some garments that I might want to get yarn for. Just wrote down the name of the pattern, how many meters I would need of that yarn, and if there was a color that I had in mind, and what the weight of the yarn would be. Sorry, I feel like I'm kind of jumping all over the place here. When it comes to the convention, yeah, it was a little bit tough to walk around. I would say, of course, because everyone is yarn shopping, everyone's got big tote bags as well. So backpacks, tote bags, kind of knocking around everywhere. But I think that's to be expected. I mean, at any kind of yarn event like this, I feel like that's what you're going to see, or any just kind of, you know, marketplace like this in general. You will probably have that just from the sheer amount of booths that are set up there. I think there were about 50 vendors there from various places, but mostly Canadian dyers and mills, and specifically from Quebec, which was really nice to see. I think I don't always take the opportunity to purchase local yarn as much as I should. So it was really nice to see what's out there and get introduced to a whole bunch of new yarn companies. Um, I have tons and tons of pictures on my phone of different yarns that I loved but had to leave behind that I will definitely be looking into a little bit later when it comes time to purchase yarn again. Hopefully, looking into and supporting these local companies, which is really great. I think an event like this is perfect for something like that if you want to try and shop a bit more local and just learn what's out there. Because truthfully, I think there were maybe 5 or 6 of these stalls of whom I'd heard before, but otherwise, all of these were new yarn brands to me, which is quite exciting. So I'll definitely be spoiled for choice the next time I want to go and look for yarn for a project and feel like I want to shop locally. Of course, an event like this is not always the most accessible budget wise, I will say. I didn't go in with any particular budget, but I knew that I was very, very likely not going to be buying a large sweater quantity of any yarns, just because with these, a little bit more special yarns that are being sold at these kind of events, a lot of them are hand dyed. And of course, that increases the price as it should. But at, $35 to $40 Canadian per skein, if I would have needed 6 to complete a sweater, that's just unfortunately not in my budget right now, on top of the other stuff that I already kind of knew that I wanted to get. So a lot of the things that I had on the list were summer tops and very light, either like blouses or cardigans that I thought I could get a little bit of yarn and make it go a long way, like a fingering or something like that. I was definitely keeping my eyes peeled for summer yarns just because we are going into summer right now. And I had a few camisole t-shirt patterns that were catching my eye. And spoiler alert, I did actually end up getting a summer fiber, which is very exciting. But I found that, of course, the most common thing you're going to find here is merino, alpaca, suri, mohair, which are, I would imagine, the most commonly used fibers. But it was really interesting and eye-opening to kind of see just how many different types and different compositions of yarn you can have from one yarn brand to the next. I definitely saw quite a few skeins with yak in them, with cashmere. The cashmere ones were stunning, obviously, so, so soft. And I wish that I would have had it in my budget to get some of those more luxurious yarns. Fortunately, not this time around, but next time they're in town, I will be going back, of course. Another thing is that because of the sheer amount of people who are there, it can be quite difficult to shop around and find what you might want if you don't have a very specific vision in mind. And I know that this has been said by many people who've gone to yarn events like this in the past, but if you're just going to shop and see what's out there, you'll probably have a really hard time seeing everything. Um, there was there were a couple of booths that were very, very popular that I actually didn't even end up getting to go in because it wasn't worth the amount of time it would have taken to wait to go in. Sonder being one of them, a very popular, very lovely yarn company out of Montreal. Would have loved to go check out their booth and see what they're offering, feel their bases, but it was just way too busy in there, which is amazing. I love to see that for a local company, but I was on a bit of a time crunch, so I couldn't justify going in. One day I would love to work with Sonder Yarn. I think it's absolutely beautiful. They have such a stunning color range, so it is definitely on my list. But yeah, I had fun also checking out the booths that were a little bit quieter, companies that I hadn't heard of before. I can insert some photos of some of the nice yarns that I saw. You'll probably see a pattern. I am into very similar colors, so a lot of these are probably going to be like dark burgundies or like Merlot type colors. But those were the ones that were catching my eye the most. And yeah, overall, I had a great time. We stayed for about just under 2 hours, I would say. Again, because there were so many people and it was only getting more crowded as the day was going on. And at a certain point, I just had to cut off my spending. So I ended up getting 2 garment quantities of yarn, small garments. So I didn't go too overboard. I had it in my head that I was going to maybe go in and get like a really special speckled yarn or variegated yarn because I don't tend to work with those often, but they can be a nice thing to pick up when you are at, an event like this with tons of hand dyers. There were quite a few that I thought were beautiful that caught my eye, but I just couldn't wrap my head around what kind of project I was going to use for it. And I really wanted to make sure I had a project in mind when I was purchasing yarn because I have a tendency to sometimes just collect yarn for no reason. And also, if I'm going to be spending this much money, I don't want it just sitting in my stash collecting dust. I want to actually make sure that I'm going to be using the things I'm purchasing. So I'm absolutely not against in the future going back and getting a really funky, fun, colorful skein, but that was just not in the cards today. So I will go ahead and show you the yarns that I purchased today. This first one is a little out of my comfort zone, but it's a color that I've had my eye on for a while. I actually have knitted a matching hat and scarf set. I did the Sophie shawl with the free classic rib hat from Pearl Soho in a very similar color to this. I can insert a photo. Uh, not this past winter, but the winter before, so a year and a half ago. And I love them. I think it's such a fun pop of color. Not sure if it necessarily matches my coloring. Apparently, I'm a winter, but I do love how that light bright green looks against dark hair. So that was my justification for picking up 2 skeins of this beautiful yarn here. My apologies for the lighting. Again, it is not so nice outside, but if this doesn't end up showing up nicely on camera, I can insert some photos. But I think this looks pretty true. So this is from The Wandering Flock. These are their summer kind of linen base. So the composition is 35% organic cotton, 30% mulberry silk, 20% linen, and 15% baby alpaca. So it's, I think, similar to a Sanisgarden Line. I've never knit with that yarn, but I have wanted to for a while. But I would say it's a little bit softer. I remember going to the store and feeling the Line and it being a little bit more rough than I had expected. And this definitely feels really nice and soft. And that's probably because of the baby alpaca that's in here. Um, and yeah, this is a sport weight. Each of these skeins is 300 meters. So I figured with 600 meters, I could definitely get a camisole out of this or even a vest. I was going back and forth on patterns for this one. I had quite a few camisole, t-shirt, tank top patterns on my list that were contenders. Many of them using fingering weight yarn. So I wanted to also find a pattern that I could use my sport weight yarn with. And I think for right now, I'm not going to be casting this on right away, so I have time to decide. But I think for right now, what I've settled on is the Sailor Swift tank or Sailor Swift top by Kutova Kika. It's just a plain racerback striped camisole. It's a very classic design, a standard tank top. I think a simple design would work really well with some really bright yarn like this. Give it a little bit of a pop. I would be making it without the stripes. I would just do a solid color. I've seen quite a few people on Ravelry who have done just a solid color and it looks just as great. But yeah, it looks like just a really simple, easy to wear tank top that could be nice in a really fun, colorful pop of color. So I think this will just be super fun for the summer. And I'm really excited to try knitting with this base. I don't often use cotton yarns, but I think this blend is really nice and it's soft, and I've heard good things about this brand, so I am really excited to dive in. My next plan was kind of a last minute decision. I added this cardigan to my list this morning, like an hour before leaving for the event, but I have discussed in previous videos that I want to knit a Maggie cardigan. I want to keep the short sleeve length but make them a little bit wider. I was planning to do that out of some Knit Pixel Loft mohair and line weight yarn, which is a 100% superwash merino, very fine fingering weight from Pearl Soho. And a couple days ago, I just started getting cold feet. I love the Maggie vest. I would love to knit more, and I would love to knit the Maggie cardigan as well. I just don't know if I can justify knitting a summer cardigan out of mohair, which is probably a decision I should have made before I made this knitting plan, before I purchased the yarn. Well, I had the yarn in stash already, but I have weird quantities of it, so I kind of need to do something a little smaller. Right now, I'm thinking I could just repurpose that yarn and make a vest for the wintertime, but I think this past week was quite eye-opening. We had a very, very warm for May week where it was above 25 degrees and sunny every day. And it was just, it was so hot. And I couldn't imagine being in the summer, having that kind of a weather, and wanting to put on a short sleeve cardigan. At the same time, a short sleeve cardigan is not the most practical for Canadian winter either. So again, I'm at this crossroads. I knew that it was probably impractical. I said I was going to knit it anyway, and now I'm getting cold feet. So all that to say, that was supposed to be my plane project for the trip I'm going on tonight. I plan on taking two projects with me, but one is the Moby sweater, which is a lot more involved. So for the plane, I wanted something that was just really easy. And I needed a stockinette project that wasn't my almost finished Paul cardigan because it's too big to take with me right now. But I think I'm gonna put that yarn back. I'm gonna unpack my bag, take out that yarn, and cast this on instead because I'm really, really excited about this new idea that I've had, and I kind of want to just jump into it. So the pattern that I decided on knitting is the Diane cardigan by Cookie the Knitter. I think this is a fairly new cardigan pattern. It came out last fall, I believe. It's been on my favorites list on Ravelry for a little bit now, and I just think it's a lovely light cardigan, which I need more of. I am currently in the midst, like I said, of knitting the Paul cardigan, which is quite a bit thicker. It is knit out of Peer Gynt, or mine is knit out of Peer Gynt, which is a DK weight yarn wool. So it is very warm and heavy and is going to be great for those winter days. But I think something for the spring and the fall and like maybe summer evenings when it's a little cooler, when I do want full length sleeves, it'll be nice to have a light cardigan. The sample version is knit out of Cardiff cashmere. It looks gorgeous, but I figured any fingering weight will do, so I wasn't going to go out and splurge on like a really expensive cashmere. One day I'd love to, but that was not really in the cards today. Sorry that I keep knocking my Knit City bracelet. I forgot to take it off. Anyway, I will end my rambling and just show you the yarn that I picked up in this gorgeous purple color. I'm not sure if I've mentioned on the podcast before, I've never knit anything purple I don't really gravitate toward purple when it comes to choosing clothing to wear. Um, but lately, I've really been having an itch for incorporating some purple, whether it's like a light lavender for a summer top or something a little darker. I saw this and I just fell in love with it. They also had one that was this, but I think it was an error in the dyeing and it came out a little darker that the woman at the booth was showing me. And that was also gorgeous. But I thought if I'm going to go purple, I might as well go like purple. The other one, because it was darker, was almost leaning a little bit burgundy purpley, which is very in my comfort zone. So I kind of wanted to try something new. But yeah, so this is a beautiful fingering weight skein from the brand Maya Part, which essentially is stitches apart, if you translate that to English. This is a Quebec dyer, which is really nice to get to support a local business. I had never heard of them before, but all of their yarn was beautiful. I swear their color selection was gorgeous. I had a hard time choosing, and I was going between this or picking up like a Surrey alpaca to hold with another yarn that I would one day find. But I am really glad that I went with this. Like I said, this is a fingering weight. This is a sock yarn. So it's Merino Yak Sock is the name of the base. And the composition is 70% Merino Superwash, 20% Yak, 10% nylon. And it is 400 meter or 399 meters per skein. So 3 should be plenty to do a lightweight cardigan. I think it's going to be absolutely stunning. And I have to basically go wind this up immediately so that I can take it on the plane with me tonight. So yeah, that's my haul. I just got these 2 garment quantities. I'm going to do a summer top and a cardigan. I think that is very reasonable. I did spend a little bit more than I'm maybe used to spending on yarn, but it's once a year or not even once a year that this festival rolls around. So I figured I would treat myself a little bit. And I am really excited about this. I actually think these would look kind of cool together too if I made a top and then wore it under this cardigan here. It's giving Barney, but it's like nice. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Um, but yeah, I know this was just a quick one. Just wanted to pop in and talk about my experience at the festival. Overall, it was great. Like I said, crowded and, it was pouring rain outside. People had their umbrellas, people had extra stuff with them. I get it. Um, so I can't hold that against them. I thought it was really fun to be exposed to all these new, I can put these down, right? To be exposed to all these new yarn brands that I'd never heard of before that I will definitely be looking more into. And yeah, I actually also got recognized by a couple people, which is mind blowing. And I was probably extremely awkward because I was not expecting it at all. So if you came to say hi to me at the festival, thank you. Seriously, like it's blows my mind that this happened. I'm sorry that I am extremely socially awkward. But yeah, it was really cool and exciting getting to chat really quickly with some people who have seen my videos or who have maybe seen my Instagram. I just think that it's, you know, it feels very isolating when you're sitting at home on your own filming these videos and uploading them into the void and not knowing who's watching them. But when you get those comments and that engagement and people saying hi out in public, it is really cool and is a reminder that, this is such a huge community. And yeah, I don't know, just some thoughts. I was so caught off guard being recognized, but yeah, really, really nice. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in to this quick one. I will be uploading this from France. Hopefully, I don't have any issues with that. And my next podcast episode probably won't be until I get back. So I will see you, I guess, in 4 weeks or so with hopefully some nice progress on these knits and hopefully a finished cardigan. We'll see if I can get this all done on the trip. But I should also prioritize the Moby, I guess. Maybe I'll have half of that, half of this. I will stop rambling now. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you next time.